Oh yes, we have got an action-packed news day. A lot of nostalgia in this episode. I'm excited for this one. Stick around. Hello to all my sports card collectors, investors, all of my collectibles friends. How are we doing? Another day. The sun has come up today and we are ready to roll. If you're new here or you've been around and you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, we are coming out with sports card collecting / investing / collectibles. We sprinkle in some finance stuff. It is a good time. So definitely stick around, subscribe, like, notifications if you like what you hear, and let's get going. Oh, and don't forget to connect with me on IG at Sports Card Dad. I'm also on the Twitter machine, the Sports Card Dad. Sports Collectors Daily, one of my favorite sites for news articles. These guys put together a great site, so definitely check them out, sportscollectorsdaily.com. And they have a couple of stories I wanted to hit on today that I wanted to highlight. The first one was an article talking about how there was a recent survey that was done that shows a majority of Americans embrace collecting. They are collectors. And according to the article, over 61% of Americans consider themselves collectors of something. And how does that break down? 17% in coins, which actually I thought was a little bit on the high end. Not to say there's anything against collecting coins, I just didn't realize it was that many. Keep in mind, this is a poll of 1,500 Americans, so it's one smallish data set. It's not as if they polled 100,000 people, but still. 12% collecting dolls / toys. I'm sure action figures probably in that as well. 12% collecting some form of trading cards. And then kind of interestingly, they have it broken down 9% into sports memorabilia. A lot of times sports cards and sports memorabilia are tied in together, but they've got this separated out to where if you're collecting jerseys or helmets or balls or whatever you're collecting, sports memorabilia, they have that separate. And then 12% collect jewelry. So, Rolex watches, gold, silver stuff, that's all part of the deal. This survey just shows that we, of all sorts, we're all similar in a lot of ways, that we are collecting something. And of course, this hasn't even taken into account other type digital assets. I believe the survey, and read the article yourself, but I believe it was like 40+% of people had not even heard of NFTs, which is very interesting. If you're somebody that likes NFTs, maybe you collect NFTs and cards and all these different things, if 40% of people that took the survey hadn't even heard of what NFTs are, it kind of gives a bullish sentiment if you are an NFT collector, because it's like, man, people just don't even know this exists yet. So anyway, not that I'm a huge NFT person, because I'm not, but I just thought that was an interesting part of that article. Very excited to see that starting lineup action figures are coming back.
Play tough, be able to grind it out, rush them, crush them, have the guts to get the glory. That's what it takes to be a winner and make it to 1989 starting lineup. Winners like Esiason, Craig, Walker, Singletary, White, Elway, and more to add to your collection. With all new uniforms, posters, and cards for 1989, each sold separately. Only starting lineup gives you the men who prove they've got what it.
For me, this really takes me back in time. In my childhood, in the late 80s, is really when starting lineups came out. I believe it was 1988 when the first line of them came out, and there was basketball, football. I'm a huge New Orleans Saints fan, so I remember I had a Bobby Hebert starting lineup going all the way back to 88 or 89 when that first one came out. And in recent years, I have bought a lot of sealed starting lineups that I just have kind of stored away because I just think that they're awesome. And I think that, there was a zillion of them produced, but how many of them are still around and in decent condition and all that? So I was like, you know what? I like these things. And so I've gravitated back towards that from my childhood. So I've got a lot of the basketball ones that I think are cool, as well as, football ones. I've got a few hockey ones, etc., and some baseball. I've got some Bo Jackson ones from 1989, 90. So anyway, I just, from a nostalgia standpoint, starting lineups to me, seeing that again, so sadly, I was like, man, I can't wait to see these in, Target or, Walmart, etc. They're only going to be sold online, unfortunately. It's done through Hasbro and Fanatics. They have worked, they're working together on this, and I hope that eventually this gets down to, major distributors where you can see them in Walmarts and Targets and Kmarts.
Good prices, just what you're looking for. So more of you come in
The next article that we're going to talk about is about Kmart. And sadly, I didn't even realize this. I had known that Kmart obviously going through all sorts of issues, over the last years, just because Walmart has really taken them over. I remember at one point it was Walmart, Kmart battling it out, and then Walmart just took hold of that retail market. Target, has ascended as well. So Kmart is the one left that is out in the cold. And there are only 3 Kmarts left. Can you believe this? Out of a high of 2,400 global stores going back to 1994. Granted, that was almost 30 years ago now. Can you believe 1994, almost 30 years ago? That doesn't even seem right, but it is right, my friends. 30 years ago, Kmart was a dominant player in the retail space, and now there are only 3 remaining. It reminds me of Blockbuster Video. But anyway, there's another article, great article on Sports Collectors Daily, done by Rich Mueller, and he talks about how Kmart at one point was kind of a mecca for sports cards. They had, just all sorts of different sports card offerings at the local Kmart. And I can remember this when I was a kid. I remember this, and I grew up in Panama City, Florida, was where I spent the late 80s into the early 90s. And I remember going to Kmart, and they had all sorts of different card options, and they also had ices. I remember they had like the spinning icy machine. There's also Slurpees, but I like the ices. I like getting Coke or Cherry Coke. And I remember they always had, at that time, there was different baseball cups that you could collect, and they always had the Montreal Expos. I don't know if there was just a run on those where they overprinted them or whatever. I was always looking for different kinds of ones to collect, different cups, and it was always the Montreal Expos. For some reason, I remember that. So it was always cards, ices, and then in the toy aisle, then you had the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle toy line, which was awesome. And then they also had He-Man figures, Transformers. Those were the days. Sometimes I go through, Walmarts and Targets, and I walk through the toy aisle just to get that feeling and to see. And funny thing is, they have Masters of the Universe stuff that's rebooted. They have all these rebooted things that are available. So I like these articles because there was so much nostalgia. As I was reading it, I was like, man, I can really relate to a lot of what they're talking about. I know a lot of the younger people are like, what are you talking about? Amazon, they have no clue, what sort of impact, Kmart's had on the card market. Of course, nowadays it's just changed so much. But it was cool to kind of walk down memory lane reading some of these articles. And I think, we talk about just cards in general. We forget kind of what got us started. So I like these types of things to bring me back to what got me started in this whole thing anyway. What got me back into this? And it's that nostalgia that comes from, late 80s, early 90s, and then just getting back in. And those great memories. So guys, thank you very much for joining me here for just a quick news video. We will be here again. You can count on us for these moving forward. Of course, we come with the news. We come with all sorts of different items related to sports cards, collectibles. So definitely stick around, stay healthy, stay awesome, and I will talk to you again later.